there's so much conversation that you and I have both heard about, well, do we put people first, or do we put profit first, right? And
Right.
it's like, well, wait, our organizational structure, when we, instead of having a values conflict, if we integrate values or develop values that support purpose, that integrate and work together collaboratively as behavior tools,
Mm-hmm.
we get both. We don't have to give up one for the other. I don't have, and in fact, we don't give up profit to have an inspired workplace that has enough ROI to give 1%.
Right.
We're actually performing time and again 3 to 5 times the industry averages, right? An example is the median net profit in the restaurant industry is 3%. Our average client runs at 19.
You're listening to Relish This, the Purpose Marketing Podcast. Here's your host, Stu Swineford.
Hey everybody, this is Stu. My guest today is Rudy Miick. He is the head of Rudy Miick Consulting Group. And we just had a really fun, flowy conversation about how nonprofits need to be run like businesses. And just thinking about accountabilities, thinking about starting with all of that great foundational work with vision, values, and mission that needs to be done. And then considering your organization as part of an ecosystem. And even within your organization, there's an ecosystem that is all interconnected. And so when you push on one part of your organization, something's going to give somewhere else. If you extract something, really immediately, the whole thing's going to fall apart. And so our conversation was really focused on how to just keep those things in mind as you're pulling levers and trying to make moves. So I had a really great time talking to Rudy. I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I did. Thanks for being on the show today, Rudy. Today I have Rudy Miick from the Miick Agency. Is that what you refer to? Miick Companies. Yeah. And we're here to discuss a lot of really fun things about what Rudy and his team do to help both for-profit and nonprofit companies thrive. I know you work with a lot of B Corps and some in the nonprofit space, and a lot of your partners and clients have nonprofits as well. So it's good to have you on the show.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here, Stu.
My pleasure.
I'm excited for the open door and dialogue to see how nonprofits, not for profit, is actually closer into the for-profit community than I think most people acknowledge. So
for sure. We have that conversation a lot where, I think any business really needs to be thinking of how they operate as a for-profit kind of approach in terms of doing things that are going to make the organization really healthy and successful. And so it'll be really, really fun to hear your take on that.
Great. Well, let's go.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your company and how you got to where you are and all the fun things that you do on a daily basis.
Super. So the Miick Companies is based in Boulder, Colorado. We have a small office in LA as well. And we're based in LA for about 16 years and then came back to Colorado. The company is just over 40 years old. We started it in the restaurant business, that is opening restaurants predominantly in resort towns at first. The restaurant openings were so successful and ongoing operation that evolved us into chain development. The chain development evolved us to hotels. The hotels took us to resorts. The resorts took us we work in about 11 different industries in 6 different countries.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's been a terrific ride. And what set us apart, I think, is from the very, very beginning, first intuitively, everything was successful because we worked as a team. The whole concept was a team focus. and also highly, highly fiscally aware, doing way before computers, doing daily costing, daily yield analysis, weekly financial statements, all those kinds of things, so that the fiscal measurement and team performance aligned. And over the years, very, very early on in the 80s even, we began to talk about purpose and values, and really became a values-based, values-focused company. And in an industry with an 85% mortality rate in 40 years and almost 1,800 clients, we've never had a loser. That's not about luck. It's all about the organizational structure and building cultures by choice around that sense of purpose and values. And here we are now in a world that's finally 40 years later talking about new capitalism, and culture is a big deal. And
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it is.
For sure. Yeah, I was exploring that back. How I kind of came into this was really feeling like I was working in my business, and my business was sort of working me at the time. And it was like, well,
Yep.
if I'm going to be, staying up until 11 o'clock trying to help my clients out and working on weekends, and going through all of that stuff that entrepreneurs and founders tend to have to go through, I might as well inject a lot more of my own personality and ethos into this operation. And so
Nice.
we discovered conscious capitalism at the time
Yeah.
was kind of starting to come
Yeah.
into play. And that was where we started to really make a big shift and say, we can inject some of this stuff into our business and have it be part of our differentiation and part of just what's baked into our mission.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you help your clients do some of the same things.
Very, very similarly. I wish I was as smart as Mackey for being able to come up to coin conscious capitalism, right? And then 15 years later, Simon Sinek, the big why. It's like,
Right.
oh my gosh. And just the funny part of Forbes, and Forbes about 2 months ago starts talking about new capitalism. And I
Mm-hmm.
just saw an article a couple of days about stakeholder capitalism, which I love the phrase.
Yeah.
However, it's just really interesting to me because we've really that sense of purpose. I first figured out when I was 30 years old, and reading a dictionary and looking up the root definition of the word restaurant. And
Right.
the literal translation is a place one goes to be restored, not a place I go to eat or a place I go to be fed. That's the third or fourth definition down. But a
Interesting.
place one goes to be restored, and restaurateur literally translates to restorer of soul.
Oh, wow.
And so we're open in restaurants many, many, many a year. And suddenly it just was so obvious. Look, this guy looks like a dishwasher. He's a restorer of soul. Stop swearing at him. Stop throwing stuff at him. Without clean plates and clean wine glasses, we're not going to restore anyone. And suddenly, well, here's a host. Well, no, she's a restorer. He's a restorer of soul.
Right.
Oh, the bartender's a restorer of soul. And retention goes up, sales go up, engagement goes up, guest retention goes up, profit goes up exponentially. And out of this opportunity of creating an inspired workplace, and then to your point, here comes conscious capitalism, choiceful development, now shareholder, or excuse me, stakeholder, and quote unquote new. And before me was Drucker and McGregor and a bunch of guys that were espousing all of this stuff. So it's great. Anyway, what a ride.
Yeah, it's funny how, it's great that things finally catch on. And one of the things I've always said is, at one point, being 1% for the Planet partner was sort of a differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
And as we kind of moved into that space and said, this is something that's important to us, and we think that it should be important to everybody. I've always said, if that ceases to be a differentiator, if we could get everybody on board with that kind of idea, that would be fantastic. And
Yeah.
and that would be totally fine. And so, the more
Yeah.
people we can get on board with this idea that
Yeah.
you do have the ability to, and probably the responsibility to take care of all of your stakeholders, I think is a great way to approach things.
Yeah. Chenard's work and the standalone group now really of 1% and the whole B Corp process is a lovely, both are lovely sets of communities. I think the other thing that, and maybe this is a segue for us into the dialogue of for profit, not for profit, is I've really been struggling the last few years as the conversation with conscious capitalism gets bigger and the big why and how. Um, there's so much conversation that you and I have both heard about, well, do we put people first, or do we put profit first, right? And
Right.
it's like, well, wait, our organizational structure, when we, instead of having a values conflict, if we integrate values or develop values that support purpose, that integrate and work together collaboratively as behavior tools,
Mm-hmm.
we get both. We don't have to give up one for the other. I don't have, and in fact, we don't give up profit to have an inspired workplace that has enough ROI to give 1%.
Right.
We're actually performing time and again 3 to 5 times the industry averages, right? An example is the median net profit in the restaurant industry is 3%. Our average client runs at 19.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, it's like, guess what? I don't have to make a choice. I can choose to play with a healthy whole system.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, as opposed to this, oh my God, do we have to do one or the other? How do we give up something? No, guess what? The universe is abundant. Let's play.
Yeah, I love that approach. I think thinking of really any system as an ecosystem, and when
Absolutely.
you carve out a piece of an
Nice.
ecosystem, bad things happen, right? So
Yeah.
when you drop one species out of that ecosystem,
Yeah.
there's residual and perhaps snowballing effect there. And so if you think of your um, your business and all of the things that your business touches and needs, and you start trying to shortcut any of those things, you can really create some bigger challenges
Ab-
elsewhere.
a- Absolutely. And it feels absolutely appropriate that you use an ecosystem. And I wish I was that smart. The analogy that I look at or use a lot is similar to a water balloon of,
Hmm.
but the ecosystem is absolutely a live version of this. If I poke the water balloon on one side, all that happens is it blops out on the other, right? But if I expand the whole of the system, right? So to your point, in an ecosystem, everything you said, if I take out a piece, something collapses. If I stuff something in one side, it pushes out. But regardless, the approach to our work, at least, has been looking at the entirety of the system and noticing, if I change hiring and I don't change the way we onboard or we retain, all that's going to happen is the balloon's going to blop out on the other side. So how do we expand or contract, like a set of lungs,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just keeping all of those pieces in mind when you're making,
Mm-hmm.
when you're adjusting any levers, thinking
Yep.
about how this is
Touche.
going to affect all of the other pieces that are connected
Yep.
to this. And
Yep.
it's not that you shouldn't be making adjustments to the levers, just be aware of what potentially could happen.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and and COVID and the pandemic in the subsequent recession is a great example in real time, right? Of I've got to make a decision. We've got to move, and simultaneously, I've got to pay attention to the whole, because we don't even have time to assess completely. We got to move.
Mm-hmm.
All the more reason for purpose, for values, for a clear sense of vision. We've got to move and then adapt very, very quickly, course correct, right, and support.
Well, and that's what I think we were talking about a little bit earlier in terms of the measuring that you put in place for your clients in terms of,
Yeah.
You mentioned this fiscal awareness and how just being very on top of that. And instead of having this be this lagging thing that you wait, 4 months and then you go check the numbers and are like, oh crap, just staying on top of that, I think is really a super valuable lesson or tool to put in the minds of anyone who's listening today in terms of really staying on top of that.
Yeah, a client of mine years ago gave me the great gift of name. We were putting these daily costing methods in place, which I'd be happy to share with you in just a minute. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, waiting for the P&L to come out, right? It's maybe 2 weeks late, or in most cases 2 or 3 months late." He says, "That's managing by autopsy." Right? I mean, we're already and as bloody, excuse the bad pun, as bloody as COVID has been and the pandemic's been, right? Waiting is not a solution. Right? We're managing by autopsy is not a good way to run a company, whether I'm looking at a budget or a for-profit line, right? It's just not.
Yeah. It's funny, and this is a concept that I'm not sure I ever have completely wrapped my arms around in terms of great examples, but the whole lagging versus leading KPI situation, where when you're tracking revenue, that becomes this lagging KPI, and needing to look at all of the things that happened to drive that revenue and trying to get as far back in that system as possible. And then that becomes this leading measure that you really, it's like, okay, well, we need to talk to 100 people to get 30 volunteers, and the output is the 30 volunteers that you need. The input is how many conversations do you have to have in order to facilitate that. And actually, that's even not the best example. Like if you're thinking about, for a nonprofit, transitioning a volunteer into a donor, so the end result is a donation, but the input was getting people on as volunteers. And I think I love your last, actually both of your examples work. Whatever it is that I need to track, the key numbers. So in the case that you're talking about, applications or interviews to acquire a new team member, new team members or volunteers to donors, whatever those indicators are. Prime costing is a great example. Whatever inventory is, whatever costs are in our world, with every industry in which we work, we literally track prime costs in whatever industry. So we could take a look even with the nonprofits that are listening, whatever it is that their area that they're working in, what are those prime areas that we're investing in, and how do I measure them, and measure them today, accrued to tomorrow, accrued to the next day, so that I'm looking at daily numbers, accrued to the week, accrued to the period, whether it's a calendar month or 13 period month, or segmented days, to a quarter, to a year, so that I'm always, like in our world, we know our numbers through yesterday by 10 a.m. today. Right.
For the week, for the day, for the period, for the year, always against budget. So now we can move quickly, add to that the values that guide our decision making, values defined, which probably a topic on its own.
Right.
But using the values as a course correction, with purpose grounding us, vision pulling us, now how far off course we are with inventory, with donations, with volunteers, whatever it is. What do we need to do to improve the count or diminish the count? And we know from yesterday. So it's data, even with soft skills like communication or hiring. It's pretty cool. It's really fun. Suddenly numbers become a pulse, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's great. Well, the other thing I think people as humans, we evolved through negative reinforcement, right? So it's like the stove is hot, you touch that, it hurts, you don't do that again. And so those negative feedbacks are super important. And I think they tend to be the focus in terms of like always looking for what's wrong. But with that kind of finger on that pulse, you're actually able to see what's right as well. And so you can more quickly double down on stuff that's working.
Well, and to your point, the great majority, and I love the way you put context of fight or flight, right? The stove's hot. There's somebody coming at me with a pointed stick, right? From centuries ago, millennium ago. Well, what's interesting now in the last 3 years with brain physiology and MRI technology, we can actually see the way the human brain fires thought and feedback. And so, for instance, a hard set skill that we use for soft skills, communication as an example, we actually use a feedback system where we're coaching to the positive at all times. Here's what I appreciated that you did. Here's what you did well. To take your performance further, do this. Right. So we've gotten 6 volunteers. We need 8. What did you do that worked with the 6? Now let's quantify it to get 2 more. Right. And then let's raise the bar to take our performance further. Let's raise it to 9. Right. Or whatever it might be. So that we're coaching the outcome of positive feedback is I begin brain fire to move into flow. So unconscious competence, actual mastery. And in our world, where like in the world of restaurants or resorts, 3 days, literally team members come up and go, could I get some feedback? Right? I'd love to get some feedback on what I'm doing, as opposed to, no, man, no word is good word, right? Right. That's no. Let's keep moving, always course correcting. Right. A great analogy, for me at least, with what you're alluding to, Stu, is even for those people in the audience that know about sailing, a sailboat beating into the wind has to tack, right? It goes exceedingly off course to maintain its course to get to port. Right. The funny, crazy part is even an F-16 going, God knows how fast they go, 2,000 miles an hour, maybe faster. They're only on course 4% of the time once they take off. Even going that fast, 4% on course. The nuance is they're course correcting by feet, right? Yeah. But the course correction is constant. Right. Just like a sailboat. So with people, the same opportunities there. Hey, Stu, this is what's really working. To take your performance further, I want you to look right into the camera, right? Pretend the camera eye is Rudy's eyes. Right. Go there, dude. I know you can do it. Right. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Okay.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I think that's just fantastic, and it's that whole North Star idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Where yes, we're going to be course adjusting, but at least we know what the course is. We know what the corridor is, and so we're not spending a ton of time running off, to the west for an hour and a half when we're supposed 100%. To be going north.
100%.
Yeah.
The other piece that we see a lot that has really impacted performance is, even with purpose, values-driven companies, guiding principles, whatever language people are using, the habit more often than not is, oh, you're not using the values, whap, right? Or no,
Hey,
that's not on purpose, right? As opposed to great job using the values to carry your performance further. What other values apply, right?
right.
Is so our work in the volatile world of restaurants, hospitality, resorts, let alone any sort of other manufacturing or sales, whatever, is instead of slapping the hands for what you're not doing, the whole Ten Commandments thing of thou shalt not.
Right.
No. I want to celebrate you for you. Wow, great use of our communication value, treating each other with dignity and respect to take your performance further. How would you incorporate the training value as well?
Right.
Right. And so we're applauding performance instead of catching people doing stuff wrong. Let's celebrate when they do stuff right.
Yeah, I really like that approach. I know that people do have a tendency to focus on those,
Oh,
on when people are off track, as opposed to really
yeah,
coming back to that opportunity to do preemptive feedback and preemptive positive feedback on when they're on track. And it's like, I'm
absolutely.
going to wait till Jim screws
Right.
up and then we
Right.
have a conversation with him, as opposed to telling him, how many awesome things he did last week,
Absolutely.
which was he worked most of the week like a champ. And if I'd been proactive about that and been forthcoming with my praise,
Oh,
then perhaps he wouldn't have screwed up. Because he would have had all of that constant churn.
100%. And we could apply every line item on a financial statement, every touch point in the business to that exact case. Is imagine walking through an office or in a Zoom call or on a whatever it is we're doing, and wherever I'm seeing something effective, going, hey, nice work with that, and or just leave it, nice work with that, not just good job, but good job in the fundraising, you hit the goal. Oh my God, bringing these two volunteers on and they've already created their first donation, right?
Right.
Bravo to that, right? As opposed to, well, God, we're missing. You got two, but I'm not even going to focus on the two. Well, what about the other four you were supposed to get,
Right.
right? No. If we go back to our analogies, your metaphor of an ecosystem, mine of a water balloon
Mm-hmm.
or a whole system. One of the other kind of catchphrases I use a lot is in my world, everything is an interview. Everything is an interview. If I see behavior I would hire, I celebrate it. And if I see behavior I wouldn't hire, course correct it
Right.
to the positive. So I'm not going to slap your hand. I'm going to say, hey, here's what I see. And at the very least, you've got a smile on your face. You've got the intention of bringing this volunteer in
Right.
to take your performance further, do X,
Right.
right? And that course correction is immediate, as is the celebration. Everything's an interview. If I'd hire the behavior, celebrate it. If I wouldn't, course correct it now to the
I,
positive.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that
My gift to you.
every business could take to heart, and just if they just changed one thing in their day-to-day interactions with their stakeholders,
Yeah.
just doing that, I think would be a huge benefit to most businesses.
It's certainly worked for us. And it's fun being on your show because one reason is I've always thought that the world of not-for-profit, actually, it's been a misnomer to me because well, wait, it's exactly the same, right? Yeah, we've got volunteers and we've got people donating time and donating money and gifts of kind. At the same time, we have a budget, and we have the goal. Our profitability is the equivalent of hitting the budget. Our performance criterion is hit the numbers, hit the goals. To your point, whether it's a volunteer or a dollar amount or an event, right? We need to run 4 events. How do we do that in COVID?
Right. Right.
Okay. Because the 4 events is a goal, COVID's only an excuse. How do we pull it off?
Yeah, and there are lots of people doing some really amazing things
Isn't it cool? Yeah.
to shift that. And if there's anything that's come out of this crazy year that we've been in, is that there's a lot of examples of people being able to take this challenge and really transform it into an opportunity. And whether that's being able to reach more people, because now you don't have to get on a plane and fly to someplace to talk to 20 people. Now you can just have that here out of the office and talk to 2,000 people virtually. Whatever those little adjustments are, there's a lot of real opportunity, and it very well may change the way that we approach things moving forward. But to think of it as completely a disaster is there's opportunity to think of it in other ways.
Oh yeah, no, there are so many positive trends that are positive examples and opportunities that are an outcome of this very real, very horrific pandemic. And 200,000 plus deaths is nothing to joke about.
No.
And simultaneously, what we've learned is exponential, right? In terms of how to use technology proactively, how to build a team virtually, etc. Just so much. All the people, yeah, I'll just stop. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. So talk a little bit more about accountability in terms of this positive feedback scenario. I know that you and your team do a lot with discussing accountabilities. How do you start that from this position of positivity?
Well, the first piece that we do from is look at culture. There are quite a few people out there that believe in the world, that believe culture is unchangeable. Culture just is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree that culture is. The question is, am I happy with the culture? Because what we've proven and know to be true is we can shift culture by choice. So I want first a culture by choice, not chance. What are the things so we start with asking, what am I happy with? What would I keep? What would I do differently if I could? Then we'll figure out how. And what would I build on that is exceptional and not as effective as it could be yet, right? So start, stop, keep. What would I start doing I haven't been doing? What would I keep doing that is working? And what would I stop doing that hasn't been effective?
Right.
Second is I devoutly believe that whether it's purpose or values or mission, that whatever language we choose, guiding principles, whatever lingo that a company chooses to use, that the values are verbs, that the purpose is a verb. So how do I communicate? Oh, I communicate openly, honestly, using treating each other with dignity and respect. We are fiscally healthy. Okay, we're healthy. How? Fiscally. So at worst, it's an adverb. The value is an adverb. At best, the action is actually a verb. So instead of thinking of these as nouns or something that someday will happen,
Right.
we use purpose, values, vision as a mission, as a tool to make decisions.
Right.
The second piece we do is we put those tools in collective I. So we do this. We take wiggle room out. We don't, if I see words like will or believe in or strive or commit, so like all that is room for an excuse.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. This is what we do. We communicate. We are. We do. We whatever. Then from those very actionable tools, two other things happen. One is we define, instead of relying on common sense, which there is none, we're just, common sense is gone. We're too homogenous. We're too, whatever the reason, stories, excuses are. Whatever my company is, please don't pretend that you're going to bring in and read my mind, right?
Right.
A leadership trap beyond words. So an active piece that we do is define excellence. So in fundraising, what is excellence? In volunteering and coaching volunteers, what is excellence? In fiscal accountability, what is excellence? So is a P&L coming out, financial statement coming out a month late, is that excellent?
Right.
We can actually close the books and have a P&L on a desk by the second day of the next period. If your timeline isn't at least 5 days or more than 5 days, it's not good enough. You can, 10 days is a norm. A lot of people are at 2 weeks or a month or God knows worse. If it's not out in 5 days, it's too late.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, okay, what is excellence about the financial statement? What is excellence about anything we ask? And just begin to start defining that excellence. Now we've got excellence defined. We've got purpose and values as verbs. Now here comes, and one of the values in our company and in most of the companies that we work with, we typically will end up with a value focused on accountability. So I'm accountable for my actions. I'm accountable for my attitude and actions. We're all accountable for our attitudes and actions. However, the naming of that value shows up, we own that we're accountable. So reasons, stories, excuses serve me if I'm the one making them, but it
Right.
doesn't serve the organization. It's just an excuse.
Right.
We might miss once, but if I miss 6 times, that's a habit. So miss once, course correct, feedback to the positive. Miss 6 times, probably have the wrong person in the job.
Right.
So from there, the accountability comes out of another tool we have, which we call kind nice. Sometimes we use phrases intimate and strategic. Let me start with intimate and strategic. Intimate in that I care about you. So Stu, I really, as a human being, an amazing guy, love your thick, long hair. You write your ponytail, the way you're doing the podcast, everything about you is really cool. On a personal level, I'm enthralled. Strategically, moving these guys from volunteers to donors. This we need to talk about, my friend. I
Right.
want the passion that you hold for your t-shirt collection and your podcast to show up the same way in moving these guys from volunteer to donor.
Right.
Here are 6 ways you can do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do you need from me to achieve those? So that I'm intimate and strategic, I care about you, and here's the performance I need. The other, I mentioned kind, nice. As a country, and frankly, most of the West thinks of, we're taught to be nice. Oh my God, don't offend somebody. Don't be rude. Well, okay. Yeah, don't be rude. Say please and thank you, and yes, sir, no, sir, and yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. That's great. However, what if we were kind to each other, which is one end of a continuum of niceness?
Right.
One of my favorite questions is how much, when you're air quotes trying to be nice, how much truth are you usually telling?
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
Versus if we're kind to each other and we've got definitive values that guide accountability and the way we communicate and our purpose, etc. And we have performance criterion and we've defined excellence. Now accountability is an outcome. Let me talk about the data of, if I dare use you in examples, like here's this amazing thick long hair. It's great for the podcast to have it loose. When you come into the kitchen, I need it pulled back.
Right.
Right. Or when you're on a food line at the food shelter, it needs to be out of your face and pulled back. That's what excellence is. Can you do that? Right. So I'm not being, oh God, you need to be a little better, dude.
Right. Right.
No, here's kindness. Look at you right in the eye. My tone, my body language is connoting care.
Right.
My language is very clear to take your performance further, pull your hair back, put it in a ponytail or a braid,
Right.
and that is sanitary and safe. And along with your mask is going to just
Right.
take performance further.
Well, it
right?
sounds to me like you're looking for measurables as well here.
Absolutely.
That's a piece that tends to be missing in this kind, nice continuum.
Yeah.
Is it does get wishy-washy. It's like, can you
Nice
do a little better? Yeah, sure. But what does that mean? First of all, and second of all, how much is a little bit? And there's nothing to measure against there. And so
I really, really nice tracking. You're spot on. So, and you just woke me up. Thank you. Here would be a real simple example. We walk around going, oh, Sally's got a good attitude. Oh, George has a bad attitude.
mm-hmm.
Okay, well, wait, time out. I can't measure any of either of those. One is a compliment, one is criticism. What if we shift it to feedback that's behavior based? So because I can measure behavior. So with Sally, good attitude. Well, wait, time out. A compliment is nice to get, but I can't coach a compliment.
Right.
So what construes good attitude? Direct eye contact, a natural smile, walking in the door and offering a greeting. After the greeting is, hey, I'm ready to go to work. Who's got something for me to do? Right? So I'm actively engaged looking for the next thing. Great. Oh, guess what? I need you to be like Sally, direct eye contact, authentic smile, greeting in the door, right? Martial arts, suddenly my mind goes there. In martial arts, we bow in as we walk in the door. We bow in as we step on a mat. We bow out. We bow out of the door. Nice bow coming in, right?
Right.
Somebody forgets to bow. That's off of the ritual, right? That behavior is measurable and it's not excellence.
Right.
So now here comes George and, hey, George, bad attitude. He's likely gonna, dude, my attitude is just fine, thank you very much.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
And instead we go, George, to take your performance further, here's what I need. Smile, because I'm not seeing you smile, dude. Bow in, greet everybody with the right, and ask for what you can do if you don't already have an idea, right? So, oh, well, I can do those 4 things.
Right.
I didn't know that's what you wanted me to do. Yeah, it's that simple. Those 4, I can do that. Great. Now, next time George comes in and he pulls off 3 of those, you go, spot on, dude, and remember the bow.
Right. Right.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. So you're out. I loved what you said is, what are the measurable performance criterion? With numbers, it's easy, right? 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
But And that said, personality and behaviors, personal behaviors, we can measure the same way. And why not do that and celebrate excellence instead of wish we had it?
Well, it also comes down to specificity. I think
Totally.
everything that you've given me here has been not just "Hey, good job," which is great, and people love to hear "Hey, good job,"
Yeah.
but taking it one step further and really calling out the pieces, the specific pieces of that good job that you're reinforcing, and then enable you to say, and here are a couple other things that you can do if you want to take your performance even higher.
Exactly, 100%. And interestingly enough, as you play back to good job, here's an interesting little anecdote. Is again back to the MRI brain firing. Excuse me. If we simply say good job, that turns into negative feedback after about 10 times. Excuse my
Okay.
phone's going off.
That's okay.
If I add one piece, good job wiping down the counter, good job walking in the door, asking what's next, right? Greeting everybody. If I add the good job doing what piece, it turns into positive feedback and flow. If I just go good job, good job, good job, it's a loose compliment and actually turns into negative feedback.
Interesting.
Oh, the guy's just blowing smoke. He doesn't mean it. Right? He doesn't even know what I do. He's just walking around going, good job, Sally. Good job, Stu. Good job, Rudy. Good job. It's just nothing. It means
That's
nothing.
fascinating.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's really cool, actually.
I just
I
add
really
the
like
one
that.
little piece.
Yep.
Yeah, just the one little piece of good job doing what, and suddenly performance skyrockets.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's just good. That's good stuff. I really like that.
Cool.
So we only have a few minutes here left.
That's good. I've got a call in 5 minutes.
Okay. This has just flown along, and it's been so fun to talk with you and hear your approach to this and how people can apply it to their business.
Thank you.
So a couple questions. First, if people want to explore ways to work with you, what's the best way for them to find you?
On my website, miick.com, miick.com. My email is my name, Rudy@Miick, miick.com, Rudy@Miick.com. And you can call my cell, and usually I'll pick up unless I'm in the middle of a retreat or a seminar of some sort.
All right.
Yeah. And I can give you that number right now, or I can email it to you so you've got it.
Why don't you go ahead and give it to us if you're willing to share it?
Sure. My cell is 720-641-7565.
Awesome.
And absolutely, feel free to give me a call. I'd love to support your work, and I love what you're doing, Stu.
Thank you.
Great stuff, man.
Thank you. And I have one more question that I ask all my guests, and that's because I really love when we can have conversations. That's super. But when we can actually create action, that's the thing that just really lights my bulbs up, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what to say there. So if there was one thing that you would ask people who are listening to this podcast today do, what would that one action item be?
Coach to the positive. Find what's working well and celebrate that.
I love it. It's something that I've tried to embrace and I talk about all the time. Is like, figure out what's working and let's do more of that. And so it's really aligned with the advice and the experience that's worked for me, for sure.
Cool, man.
So thanks for being on the show. It was awesome to have you. And I really appreciate it.
My treat. Thanks so much for having me as your guest. I look forward to more. And keep up the great work out there. The world needs it and is ready for us. So let's go play.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Rudy. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Take care, Stu.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, there you have it. Another great episode of Relish This, the purpose-driven marketing podcast. If you want to continue the conversation and see how we can unearth some gold for your organization, head over to relishstudio.com/podcast to sign up to be a guest on the show.